Udah tayang ya, dia ya? Nggak ada suaranya, Pak Reza. Nggak ada suara.
Jaka. Pak Jaka ini nggak ada suaranya videonya.
Ya.
Di mata saya, pendidikan adalah sesuatu handal dan terpercaya. Dalam menyiapkan kader koperasi dan berusaha tangguh dalam menghadapi persaingan global menjadi visi IKOPIN yang terus dibangun.
Kampus IKOPIN di kawasan pendidikan tinggi Jatinangor diresmikan pemakaiannya oleh Presiden Republik Indonesia pada tanggal 12 Juli 1984.
Dengan dukungan dan kerjasama yang baik antara masing-masing sivitas akademika dan mahasiswa menjadikan sarana prasarana di kampus IKOPIN tetap terjaga dengan baik.
Pak Reza,
Ya, Pak.
coba diangkat dulu Pak teleponnya Pak.
Diangkat apa dijawab, Pak? Nggak ada masuk, Pak. Pak.
Oh bisa nih, bisa masuk ya. Pak Robi Tulus, bagaimana kabarnya?
Dengan siapa Pak Luhur ya?
Luhur Pak, ya.
Aduh, selamat pagi Pak. Di sini sudah jam 10 malam ini.
Ini Bapak di posisi mana, di Kanada?
Iya Pak, di Kanada Pak. Betul.
Pukul berapa berarti di sana ini?
10 malam.
10 malam, ya aduh, ya. Baik Pak, nanti bisa connect dengan ya.
Baik Pak, terima kasih Pak.
Sehat-sehat Pak. Sehat-sehat Pak Tulus.
Alhamdulillah, sehat Pak Luhur, terima kasih.
Baik Pak, ya ini saya dulu ya.
Kalau videonya suaranya di-on-kan aja deh.
Gerindra. Iya, iya.
His Excellency Indonesian State Minister of Cooperatives and Small and Medium Enterprises, the Honorable Rector of IKOPIN, the excellent speakers, the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. I am Della Marcica, a student of IKOPIN, Institute of Cooperative Management of Indonesia. It is my honor to be a Master of Ceremony in this occasion. And I welcome you to our international webinar on cooperatives and micro, small, and medium enterprises after COVID-19 in commemorate the 38th IKOPIN's anniversary. And we proudly announce that our webinar has been attended by more than 2,000 participants on Zoom and YouTube live streaming from 11 foreign countries. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to inform our today's program. We would have the welcoming speech from the rector, followed by the keynote speech from the minister, and the main program is the panel session. And there will be a session for a question and answer. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first program, I would like to invite Dr. Burhanuddin Abdullah as IKOPIN's rector to deliver the welcoming remarks. Please welcome.
Thank you, Dela. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, Pak Menteri. Selamat pagi, Bapak, Ibu, Rektor yang saya diinformasikan banyak yang hadir pada hari ini dari berbagai universitas dan institut, para besar, and a very good morning for friends and cooperators from Australia, China, Malaysia, Japan, Pakistan, the Philippines, Turkey, and of course from Indonesia. And a very good evening for friends and cooperators from Canada and the United States. And I also should mention friends and cooperators from Nigeria, because the numbers of them are quite some. Thank you to each and every one of you for virtually attending this international webinar at the comfort of your home in your respective country. We are very pleased to be able to warmly welcome our guest of honor, His Excellency Minister of Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Teten Masduki, who will set the tone and guide us with his keynote address during our deliberation of the day. We would like also to welcome honorable speakers, Mr. Roby Tulus, whom for many of us in the international co-op movement, Roby is no stranger. He is one of the few international experts on cooperatives. And also, I would like to welcome Ms. Sylvia Okinle Paraguya, Chief Executive Officer of National Confederation of Cooperatives, or NATCO, from the Philippines. And last but not least, the young cooperator, I welcome Mr. Ahsan Ali Thakur, Chairperson of International Cooperative Alliance, Asia Pacific Youth from Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to all of you who generously help us make this event a success. In particular, to the Ministry of Cooperative and SMEs of the Republic of Indonesia and the Central Bank of Indonesia, West Java Rep Office. Today, or to be precise, yesterday, marks the 38th anniversary of the Institute of Cooperative Management of Indonesia. We call it in short IKOPIN. IKOPIN, to whom which is not familiar yet, is the one and only higher learning institution in Indonesia focused primarily on studying cooperatives as social science, way of life, and choice of political economy. Founders of this republic, as you know, had envisioned that the nation economy to be based on the Pancasila philosophy and to be organized as a common endeavor based upon the principle of the family system as it is promulgated in the Indonesian Constitution. That is an economy that provides prosperity for all. IKOPIN has been traveling quite a long journey in the past 38 years in facilitating the implementation of those ideals. Despite its bumpy road, the ups and downs, there are now around 15,000 alumni working in various cooperatives in Indonesia and filling offices in government, banking, and other private companies. It is encouraging and also heartening to see that many among the alumni managed to become a successful businessman. So up until today, IKOPIN has been living up to its vision and mission, namely to prepare capable cooperative cadres and successful businessmen. Friends, cooperators, ladies and gentlemen, With regard to the current coronavirus outbreak, the Indonesian government has been decisively stepping in to stop the spread through social and physical distancing and other necessary measures, including mitigating its adverse impact on the livelihood of Indonesia. With similar efforts placed throughout the world, most people are now living in subnormal situation. Unlike the 1998 Asia economic crisis, the COVID-19 is a global pandemic that calls for global solution. In addition, it has impacted cooperative and SMEs entrepreneurs at the first blow. In many countries, cooperative SMEs are the backbone of the economy from an employment perspective, including in Indonesia. With the severity of this outbreak, the global economy at this time is in a state of paralysis, we can say that could lead to a deep recession. I'm pretty sure that after COVID-19, we will see a new landscape of the world economy. The same thing will happen at the national level. Many suspect that this pandemic will increase poverty and further widen income disparities between countries and also internally. Therefore, it seems that we need a new story. We need a new vision of both the world economy and the national economy. For Indonesia, I think this is the right time to rethink and explore the possibility to somehow improve the currently implemented economic system. The improvement that will make Indonesian economy more equitable. Each person will have their own contribution to the economy, more sustainable and more resilient in dealing with economic turbulence and crisis, which nowadays is increasingly frequent. In other words, an economy that is in accordance with the constitution that has not been seriously implemented for far too long. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, IKOPIN thinks that now is time for the international community to share experiences and discuss alternative solutions to the problem that arise from the pandemic in most people, communities, including cooperatives. The purpose of this webinar is to get an overview of the best alternative solution to deal with the adverse impact of COVID-19 on cooperative and SMEs in countries involved. It is our hope that this webinar could obtain a picture of cooperatives and SMEs performance that is affected by COVID-19, as well as the best practice carried out by cooperatives in webinar participant countries, which can be used as reference for re-empowerment of cooperatives after the pandemic abated. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, once again, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you, and I don't want to take too much of your time. Thank you very much for listening, and let us now welcome His Excellency, Minister of Cooperatives and SMEs of the Republic of Indonesia, Pak Teten Masduki. The floor is yours. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Pak Burhan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bapak Ibu sekalian yang saya hormati, Dear Excellency, especially to Mr. Robbie Tulus, cooperative expert, the Republic of Canada, Mrs. Sylvia Paragua, Mr. Ahsan Ali Takur, and I'm truly honored to be invited in this forum. COVID-19 have hit cooperative and SME hard at the first blow. The government direction in social distancing, physical distancing, and large-scale social restriction affected the economic activity of cooperative and SME. Ministry of Cooperative and SME has conducted a data collection of COVID COVID-19 impact on cooperative and SMEs. The results are as follows. Cooperative affected 1,785 units, and SME affected 163,713 units. And the third largest cooperative sector affected are consumer cooperative, around 45%, services cooperative, around 8%, produce cooperative, cooperative, 7%. The issue reported are lack of capital, decreasing sale and distribution inhibited. Meanwhile, the third largest SME sector affected in cause of COVID-19 are food and beverage, creative industry, and agriculture. According to BRI Bank data, more than 60% of ultra micro have turned over 45%. There are 5.8 million ultra micro BRR customers who have business problem. So our government has Sorry? Any problem?
No, sir, you can continue.
Okay. Our government has decided 5 measures of protection and recovery for cooperative and SME. First, poor and vulnerable FSE as recipient of social assistance. 2, tax incentive for SME with a turnover of under 4.8 billion per year. 3, loan relaxation and restriction for cooperative and MSE. One of them is through LPDB. Expansion of cooperative and MSE working capital financing. And 5, ministries, state-owned enterprise and local government as a buffer of cooperative and MSE products. So regarding digital economy of Indonesia, the rapid development of digital technology saw a positive impact and expansion of business opportunity. The digital economy encourages sharing economy that can increase opportunity for various business actors, including MSE, SME to participate in the business world. According to data from January 2019, from 268 million people of Indonesia, internet user reached 150 million, or 56%. The use of their internet and digital technology, in addition to ease of accessing of information, also widely used for economic activities such as buying and selling transactions. At present, Indonesia is the largest e-commerce market in the Southeast Asia, with a projected growth in the period 2017 and 2022, and socio-economic impact in 4 areas, according data of McKinsey, including financial benefit through increased new retail revenue, job creation primarily at SME, and buyer benefit consumer in non-Java region are saving from 11 to 25% by shopping by online commerce. And 4, social equality, namely women opportunity for activity income and income through e-commerce activities. Online revenue is generated by women compared with 15% in offline retail. The government has targeted Indonesia as largest digital economy by 2020, where the e-commerce transaction target are $130 billion US. To support this vision, the government has launched the program of SME Go Online, targeting commerce transaction of 8 million SMEs by 2022 and 20, as revealed by the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology. E-commerce play an important role on cooperative and SME. Government direction to work from home, learn from home, and pray at home certainly limit consumer space. On the other hand, meeting the need must go on. The public has experienced a change in consumption pattern that were offline to become online. We predict that stay-at-home economy will be a trend in the near future. From the data we obtained, there are increasing product transactions during the pandemic on several online e-commerce platforms, including health product, mask, sanitizer, thermometer, up 90%, outdoor and indoor hobby product, game and sport equipment up 70%. Staple food product up 350%. Instant and herbal food and beverage product up 200%. There has also been an increase in the number of new account creation on the marketplace, especially accounts that sell health products such as masks, hand sanitizer, and vitamins, up to 250%. This shows the effectiveness of the rule of e-commerce in this pandemic. In addition to the development of digital market platform, digital payment has also developed rapidly over the past decade. In the framework of using digital payment to streamline the payment system and support cashless society, various technological innovation and new business models are developed. Currently, the most widely used digital payment methods are e-wallet through the use of smartphone, m-banking that can be easily accessed anytime and anywhere, e-money or chip-based electronic money to serve base that has been widely used by the community. Furthermore, to accelerate development in the global World Bank Indonesia, the World Bank Indonesia, which has the authority regarding payment system activities, has implemented the Quick Response Code Indonesia Standard or CRIS policy. Currently, there are 2.7 million merchants with CRIS installed, according Bank Indonesia data, some of which are micro enterprise, traditional market traders, and grocery sales. For the expansion of the installation and use of kris at other merchant like traditional market, grocery store, micro business, cooperative shop, and etc. Especially in their use during the COVID-19 pandemic, Bank Indonesia and Ministry of Cooperative and SME will collaborate and involve the Ministry of Trade and Regional Development Bank to obtain wider access to traditional market in the region. I would like to call all of you, student, entrepreneur, to participate in the cooperative movement. Together, we will witness the transformation of cooperative from the conventional to digital. Digitalization facilitates the synergy between stakeholders and the member of cooperative. We are optimistic that the cooperative can become member-based organization with its values and principle of participation, togetherness and independency, and become agent of change in the current digitalization era. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for not being able to take part in this webinar until it's over. But don't worry, we have already joined our colleague, Professor Ruli, and also Pak Luhur, to discuss with you all. Once again, I apologize. I hope this webinar will go well. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Matur nuhun Pak Menteri. Terima kasih.
Sami-sami, Pak.
Deepest gratitude to the Excellency Minister for delivering the keynote speech. Now, the honorable guests and participants, for the next session, I would like to invite Dr. Ami Purnamawati as the head of Society Services of Research Center IKOPIN to lead the panel session. Please welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Della, for introducing me. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, very good morning, very good evening. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to be the moderator on such prestigious international webinar issuing the interesting topic, cooperatives, micro, small, and medium enterprises after the pandemic of COVID-19. Regarding to the topic, I found some skeptic statement that some people still view the cooperative as an inefficient anachronism. It means that it is a prisoner of its 18th century origin, or we have to be back to the Rohdel movement. They stated that there is a series of internal inefficiency that have undermines the ability of co-op to compete in a capitalist economy. And another one is the skeptic question. If cooperative is so desirable, if the cooperative ownership is so desirable, why are there so few cooperatives? Then it comes to my mind, in this today global pandemic, will the cooperatives be getting worse? Or this is the gold momentum of raising the sharing economy? Thank you, the Excellency Minister, for having the optimistic that will inspire us. So, ladies and gentlemen, to get other sides, the committee has already invited 3 outstanding speakers coming from 3 countries, Canada, Philippines, and Pakistan. For sure, they will have enabled us to have some enriching overviews, ideas, and experiences. I should inform for this panel session that each speaker has 20 minutes for delivering the presentation, And to dear participants, you will have the opportunity to question for any speaker, and you may write in the question and answer box. Therefore, the speakers can read and select some question to respond. Should you make any question, please mention to whom you deliver. And after the discussion session, there will be the wrap-up session. Dearest participants, before we begin, allow me to greet and introduce briefly for every speaker's in turn. First, I would like to greet Pak Robi Tulus. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, Mr. Robi Tulus, just to mention some, is the pioneer of the credit union movement in Indonesia. He had various board chairs and membership in Canada and also in Indonesia. And more recently, he founded and pioneered the establishment of the National Association of Strategic Socio-Economic Cadres. Pak Robi Tulus will be sharing his expert opinion for our webinar topic. So, thank you for sharing your evening, sir. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please welcome Pak Robi Tulus.
Thank you very much, Ibu Emi.
You're welcome, sir.
Ibu Ami, sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
And before I start with my presentation, let me just, first of all, congratulate Bapak Rektor, Burhanuddin Abdullah, because with your 38th anniversary celebration, and I think, you know, it still is vivid in my mind, because I was there at the opening of IKOPIN in 1982, when Dr. Herman Suwadi was there. And so it rings so much of a nice bell in my ears, and to see how sustainable IKOPIN has been. And of course, you know, I also would like to praise His Excellency, the Honorable Minister of Co-ops and Small and Medium Enterprises, because of his impressive presentation or keynote presentation in terms of showing how the digital economy in Indonesia is moving so fast, and in fact underscored with so much data that we can see that even during the COVID-19 disruption, things are moving well because of the digital economy. And I think this forum is one of the testimony that we also managed to, you know, conduct the forum through digital conferencing, and that being the case, we are not being pessimistic of you know, of progression that will take place in Indonesia and elsewhere in the world with the digital and technology that is so fast improving these days. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have 20 minutes, and so it will be quite short, but I will just give you a gist of my presentation. So the first one is, I think it has been somewhat alluded by Ibu Ami, that we seem to have a neglect of basic human values these days and the environment. And I think COVID-19 showed it very clearly, because even the UN Sustainable Development Goals is a warning sign. But given that, you know, people are still quite aloof, and I think this COVID-19 has shown us that we should be much more awake in terms of seeing the neglect of human values and environment. And COVID-19 also is a good reminder that the coronavirus put the brakes on the rich or the poor or everybody, regardless of their status, economy status, and political or economic or social status, because it is not discriminating. Everyone is powerless now, and everyone is confused. And of course, you know, given that fact, coronavirus has really put the brakes on those people. And number three is I need time. I want to give time to reflect on putting people first rather than money first. And of course, how humanizing actions of cooperatives are taking place all over the world. And I think we should not be forgetting that the cooperative movement is by far still the most durable and most powerful grassroots movement in the world. Cooperatives employ more people in democratically run enterprises than all the world multinational companies combined. So that we should not be forgetting. And cooperatives for change. What actions are taken by cooperatives during COVID-19 lockdowns. An interactive role of cooperatives, and this is my small my small recommendation at the end of my my presentation, is that what are the interactive roles of cooperatives, government, and stakeholders, which I think would be something that we could perhaps discuss in more detail later on. And number 7 is encapsulating the primary of cooperatives. So let's start with COVID-19. It is a stark reminder that we have seen an assault on humanity and nature, and it has really serious consequences because as one can well imagine, you know, we have been assaulted by the powers that be. And as we can see, the direction of contemporary capitalism, for example, is driven by an ideology of worldly competition, profit maximization at any cost, whether material, psychological, as well as ecological. So capitalism and the consumer culture generates not only environmentally unsustainable, they are socially and psychologically unsustainable as well. So we can see that the COVID-19 showed us or reminds us of that assault of inhumanity. And we look at this economic and psychological fallout of COVID-19. The world lost close to $10 trillion, which is about 1/8 of the global GDP. And we can see now skyrocketing unemployment everywhere in the world. Profound and pervasive impact on global mental health. We see anguish of people, fear, pain, distress, and loneliness. Although, you know, at the other side of the equation, we also see that there's more clean air. The environment has improved because of COVID-19. But that doesn't mean that we should be complacent with that improvement. And we'll have to make stronger efforts in making sure that we are helping the environment, the ecological sustainability. So there is therefore time for us to escalate our advocacy. Co-op is the alternative to contemporary capitalism. As I said earlier, contemporary capitalism with the profit maximization at any cost is something that we have to see cooperatives as the alternative. And I'm not saying that we have to overtake or change capitalism. No, we have to show the alternative and improve ways to to defend the right of people and the disparity that we see as a result thereof. Time of Wall Street devotees, for example, to put human and nature-related impacts firmly into their risk map. Because all these days, as you can see, consumerism is so much on the rise that you'll see the gap between the rich and poor are escalating. And we can see that, well, take Chile as one of the countries in Latin America, which at some point has become a member of OECD. And once they became a member of OECD, which is supposed to be a member of the rich countries, they went so deeply into economic turmoil that by now they have a Gini quotient of more than 40, the Gini index, as compared to when they joined OECD 10 years ago, which is 35. So one can see that again, contemporary capitalism has taken over, and that, you know, they have not taken the nature-related impacts. into their into their policies. And it's time for government to define stimulus also in a new economic trajectory that is more sustainable, and not just giving stimulus for the sake of reopening businesses, but also with a good plan and to see that the trajectory is going to be more sustainable. And time for world leaders to incorporate stronger environmental measures in post-COVID socioeconomic and socio-political order. So if you see what's happening now, we can see that most of the debates are around health versus wealth. On the one hand, we have medical experts, medical scientists, researchers, healthcare professionals that are much more concerned about the health of people and that they are with people. Now, where are cooperatives? I think cooperatives is right there. They have the mitigating, not just mitigating power, but the mitigating agent to do both. Because what 7 principles of the cooperatives basically indicated that we are community oriented, we are community based. Of course, we are member based, but we always are concerned about the community. So we are creating community health by the same token that we are also creating community wealth. And it's a humanizing agent. Co-ops are the humanizing agent, I think, given the situation that we are in now. And as a humanizing agent, we put cooperatives back on the world map as humanizing thrust and also driver. Remember the theme, and I think it's only 8 years ago that we have the International Year of the Cooperatives, and we said, hey, cooperative enterprises build a better world. And you can see that we have done so. And if you look at some of the progression that has taken place over these 8 years, we see so many new type of cooperatives, a variety and array of cooperatives that have evolved over the years. And in the time of crisis, cooperatives continue to provide livelihoods and essential services to members and communities. Although the forms of cooperatives takes so many uses to which they are put in a display with astounding variety, their original and essential structure remains what it was when they were first organized 176 years ago by the Rochdale pioneers, and also in the UK, and also by Raiffeisen in Germany. So we can see that cooperatives is the agent, and we will have to help the communities to move out of their cubbyhole. And cooperatives and credit unions are enterprises, as we all know, that are collectively owned and democratically controlled, so by their members for their mutual benefit. And that's why is it an opportunity that we need to build a better world? Because we have a sense of well-being that is so inextricably linked to relationship of one another. And I think it's the most far-reaching, heartening, and reach in such a manner that the presence of social capital is there. Sometimes we forget, that businesses are usually translating everything into commerce, government also into systems, but we are translating it to social and human capital. And that the widespread of reciprocity in cooperatives cannot be forgotten. And they are still a business. And I'm not saying that they are not still a business. And look at Emilia-Romagna. It's a classic case study in Emilia-Romagna, for example, to understand the mechanics of a successful small firm cooperative. That's why they call it the cooperative economy in Italy. And Italy is the far worst country affected by the COVID-19. But if one can see exactly where Emilia-Romagna is, it's an economic model that they have there, which includes cooperatives and small capitalist firms alike, which allows the small and the medium firms to compete globally through use of cooperation. as an industrial strategy. So again, not just social capital, human capital, but it is also a business that is worth undertaking as long as the people are the ones undertaking the business and making sure that they are controlling the business within the industrial strategy. So that being said, in the opportunities, we'll see humanizing actions of cooperatives taken by co-ops worldwide. I can't go into much detail, but just to say that given the fact that the first frontline activists from cooperatives, such as the Lega Co-op in Italy, because that's the country most badly affected, they have hygiene measures, home deliveries, catering, insurance, and also their co-op taxis are giving free rides to the elderly. And so again, you know, cooperatives are always present and right there and then to help. And also telework, for example. We are doing that now. And I think the Honorable Minister has spoken about the digital economy. So postponing face-to-face exchanges, Ace Hardware in the US, Open Coop UK, and Pagliarfo in Finland are all doing telework like what we are doing now in their business activities, as well as in helping the poor and disadvantaged. Increased pay through lockdown and paid and special leave paid, and that's Foodstuffs in New Zealand is doing that, and the pay cut by higher paid workers, so that all the low wage workers will not be cut the salary, but perhaps increase their salaries by harmonizing the higher paid workers. So the cooperative of the Football Club Barcelona is doing that. And new employment opportunities in retail stores, for example, the Co-op Group in UK. Pandemic impact analysis of members co-ops, which is also being done by the Business Council of Cooperatives and Mutuals in Australia, with the Sansu in Japan. And of course, we have information exchange, lobbying, frontline workers help, and all that. And I think perhaps later on, my good friend Sylvia would explain about their activities within the Asian Confederation of Credit Unions, as well as the World Council of Credit Unions. What are actions taken by cooperatives in Asia Pacific? One can see in Australia, for example, there's a co-op collaboration recording and archiving the activities of Australian cooperatives by BCCM and facilitating communication and knowledge sharing, which is the Capricorn Society, which is a cooperative society in Australia. India, food distribution by NAFED, infrastructure and isolation wards by NCUI. And food distribution of NAFED is very critical because it's the National Federation of Agriculture there. And as you know, onion is a very strong political item in India. So the food distribution is such that they won't have to reduce any of the most basic food that Indians all savor, and that is onion and rice, of course. And financial assistance, distribution of protecting gear and hygienic essentials. IFCO, the Indian Fertilizer Cooperative, NAFSCOP, which is the urban cooperative bank, and moratorium on loan installments by NACARD. And social assistance to migrant workers and distribution of medical supplies and food production, donation of medical supplies. Again, you see that India is doing a lot. Now let's see Indonesia now. Their support of frontline medical workers in a small way, but it's done by LSP21. And I think many of you know Hera Hardianti. She's doing a lot of hard work to make sure that some frontline medical workers in hospitals in Bandung are being helped. And loan restructuring and rescheduling of interest reduction, for example, capital support for SMEs, which is done by one credit union in Nusa Tenggara Timur, in Obormas. Loan interest repayment only by Koperasi Sejahtera Cibinong. And then we have the Kelingkumang group, which has done loan restructuring and rescheduling, but they are using their mobile office service cars to remote villages. Those in the very, very remote villages are still given cash and liquidity, or rather given money to be able to survive, some of them to buy basic commodities. And I show some pictures later on. And of course, IKOPIN has also set up 3 task forces, medical equipment for frontline workers, which is one task force for that. And we have the mobilization of social solidarity funding for Islamic School Social Fund during this Holy Ramadan month to help vulnerable people. And I think also the data collection of cooperatives affected by COVID-19, both business, livelihood, and employment. And this is just a quick overview of the Kelingkumang Credit Union, which has done, for example, one of their small branch offices are using temporary plastic protector screens so that they are not affecting one another by doing social distancing, and also protecting them from the tellers inside the branch offices. And as I said, the mobile service is being used extensively. They have five or six of them, and they keep going all throughout the province to help to the poor villages, and having their members, of course, surviving the day-to-day difficulties, and of course also donate the PPEs for frontline and medical staff at local hospital. So given their 182,000 members, that's a lot to be done, because of course, they're all in a precarious situation, and they need to be given the right services in this COVID-19 situation. Another one is Iran. Again, I don't want to go too much in detail given the time. Ibu Ami, how much time do I have left?
Okay, you still have 7 minutes.
7 minutes, okay.
7,
all right.
okay.
So Iran and Japan, facilitating information sharing and compensation requests by Hugh Co-op and JCCU in Japan. This is the consumer union. And Iran is has produced masks, isolation gowns, social assistance through cleansing and disinfecting the public amenities, online education services, distribution of PPE to hospitals. So again, they are all doing their rightful services to the low-level communities. Kiribati, there are not many cases there, but they do preventive measures, so that's good. And Korea, of course, is one of the prominent countries which has done so much proactively to deal with COVID-19. So they have social healing projects in a special disaster zone, for example, by putting aside 4.9 million Korean won to support underprivileged and increasing sales of food staples, increasing masks, and meal distribution by IKOP. As you know, IKOP is the consumer co-op, which is very much of a member-based co-op. And Malaysia has contributed $230,000 US to the government, and 160,000 allocated to cooperatives affected by the outbreak, and that's done by Angkasa as the apex organization. And of course, the minister has also done a deferment of loan repayments by cooperatives, and they have a regulatory measure to do so. In Myanmar, financial assistance and protective gear again, and food staples. So providing food staples and 5 million kyats. I don't know how much that is in dollars. Oops, sorry. And 13 million kyats also this being assisted or supported by the Union Co-op Society, 16 of them, and CCS is the Central Cooperative Society. In Nepal, it's just very interesting because they have fund creation and financial assistance of 2.5 million towards the Corona Control Center of Cooperative by NCF. So the National Cooperative Federation has set up a Corona Control Center for cooperatives, and 21.70 million to government is being provided. So they actually donate money to the government, and 1.1 million by NCB, the Cooperative Bank of Nepal. So awareness campaigns, facilitating and distributing of member farm products are also being done by the National Agriculture Cooperatives. In New Zealand, cooperatives and joint government efforts in a key part of economic recovery. Pakistan, and I think, of course, my good young friend Aksan Ali Thakur will perhaps explain a little more, which has what is happening in Pakistan. And Palestine is the distribution of essential hygiene supplies, food supplies and food distribution to poor families. They bought produce from farmers and women co-ops, which is very interesting, and lobby governments to conduct shipments of agri products to buyers in UAE and UAE and Saudi Arabia. So it's interesting that they are lobbying the government so that they can conduct trial shipments for their exports to the Emirates and to Saudi Arabia. Philippines, I think my good friend Sylvia would explain much more about it later. And Singapore has distributed masks, and they work with the migrant workers also to make sure that the migrant workers are well attended during the COVID-19 outbreak. And 500,000 employees insured under the group employee benefits. And so they will receive the full payment, full coverage by NTUC income. And the supply of food and daily necessities are pledged 240,000 to the common chest and heartstrings, and also benefit the less privileged people by a donation from the NTUC Fair Price, which is the consumer cooperative, to the Lee Ang Moy Old Age Home. As you know, the old age home and the elderly care homes are being so much affected by the COVID now. So Singapore has done well, and as you can see that the mitigating measures have had little casualties in Singapore. And Sri Lanka, social assistance of food rations, Vietnam, and facilitating export of medical equipment. So they are making masks, medical clothes, and ventilators. And VCA, the Vietnam Cooperative Alliance, has done also very much proactive work. And as you can see, they have much less people who are affected, or even if they're affected, less death cases in Vietnam. So Co-op for Change, and this is my little this is my little suggestion. So with the change that we need to happen, and because Co-op is being a humanizing agent, we have to test the cooperative empathy, leadership, and vigilance at this point in time, and how to take Co-op action following reflection, because there are lots of reflective mechanisms happening during this COVID period, but what action are involved there, and how to regulate the new normal now that government movement collaboration should actually be much more intensified, because this is a new normal. It is not the old normal. How to sustain networks and strengthen civil society and economic democracy, and doing all that, empathy, leadership, vigilance, action, regulation, and networks, by using digital technology, which is virtual learning basically during the COVID-19. And I think the Honorable Minister has been very good in giving us the examples in Indonesia, how proactive they've been doing that. So we have the keywords of empathy, leadership, vigilance, action, regulation, and networking. How do I place that? And I put it in this diagram. You can see going up there is empathy. I have 3 levels of difficulties that cooperatives will face. And there's a leadership in the middle and vigilance here downstairs, down under. Because that's the first shock. Say March to July, it's members' hardship, because members are confused. They are all feeling neglected because they have to be at home, and there's hardship for membership. So what do cooperatives do? So they have to open hotlines, for example, to members consulting by phone. This is just my own brainstorm, and of course you can all add to it. And we have the second shock. The second shock is the institutional hardship, because once members' hardship are there and cooperatives are starting to use the emergency funds, to use that stockpile, whatever they have, to help members, then they forget that their institutions are impacted. So the second shock is the institutional hardship that they need to take care of. And then comes the third shock, which is 2021 onwards, is the external pressures. It means that cooperatives is not an island, so they will see that the crisis may occur in many parts of the world as well as in their own national countries, though they have external pressures and they have to mitigate to those external pressures. So I'm just going to show you on the membership's hardship what can be done. So the first shock, March, July, what can cooperatives do? And I mentioned there, open hotline for members and logistics, masks, hand sanitizers, digital service delivery, collective kitchen using local products, for example, cushion impact of COVID by paying only interest on loans. And you can add more of that. But this is what we call the reaction to COVID, which is reducing the hardship. And what can government do is institute regulation for savings, withdrawal, for example, moratorium on loans or warehouse receipts, and provision of emergency health and food services for poor co-op members. And I think when I listen to the Honorable Minister, the government has been already been proactive in trying to do that. In fact, the Honorable Minister was saying that there are protective measures, recovery and social assistance to the ultra micro enterprises as well as to the poor. So that is very appreciative, given that this is the time of members' hardship. Stakeholders are those which relating to both government and cooperatives, but perhaps primarily cooperatives like civil society organizations. We have, for example, charitable and voluntary organizations. We've got also social enterprises that use market to promote social goods, our local social goods and welfare of society. So how can stakeholders work with cooperatives in order to make sure that information are exchanged? Plan webinars, for example, feasible shared services on feasible shared services, mutual fundraising activities to help vulnerable communities, create interdependence and no finger pointing at this point during the members' hardship. So again, there's a normative concept of civil society there that's promoting democracy and social justice. So how do we do that? What can cooperative do in helping that, for example, during this period of hardship? And the next one is the institutional hardship. That's the second shock. So how do you consolidate internal cohesion of cooperatives? Because board and staff may be doing a variety of activities that are not truly consolidated. So again, you have to have consolidation of board and staff because the institution has to be firm. Write-offs, for example, whether we have to have write-offs to the loan restructuring, loan reconditioning, cash flow management, harmonized staff salaries, online courses to beat quarantine fatigue. Because by then, August, September, there's a pandemic fatigue. And how do we do perhaps more interesting online courses to sort of beat that fatigue? And extend home delivery services, for example. Again, that's an institutional mechanism that needs to be set in place because during that hardship, it is something to consolidate on. And government has to provide subsidies for sick workers, for example, of time off, liquidity support for co-op social safety nets, support for women and youth, for example, because during this second shock, there are lots of domestic violence happening, and we need to also find ways to reduce domestic violence. And for the young, there's a lot of boredom because they are bored. They start doing things that may be out of the casual day-to-day activities. So again, it could be crime, it could be non-crime, but there should be support. Tax breaks, for example, for cooperatives. I think the Honorable Minister has alluded to some tax incentives just now. Soft loans, for example, to the micro and small enterprises, and digital capacity enhancements. And I think this is fantastic. I think the Honorable Minister has done a lot of work there in digital capacity enhancement. And the stakeholders conduct mutual surveys and webinars and share videos and governance consolidation during this organizational stress. And then, of course, we have the external pressures. So when the third shock comes in, you'll see that cooperatives, some weak cooperatives cannot survive. They may collapse. But before collapsing, they may want to think of merging with stronger cooperatives so that to survive and to sustain. And of course, loan restructuring and reconditioning has to still take place again and consolidate spin-offs, because in some of the credit unions that have already spin-offs into the retail sector, into the agriculture sector, they need to consolidate that, hopefully by learning from each other, because unlike, just credit unions stand alone, agriculture stand alone, consumers stand alone, they have to start working together and consolidate, what is it called? An interactive mode of operations, so that, members can be sustained in terms of their economic well-being as well as social well-being. Investing in pandemic resilience, I think, is also very important during this time, and avoid complacency, of course. And what government can do is regulation, strengthening procurement links. And again, this has to do with the spin-offs there. Producer and consumer links has to be more intensified, so that we can have local products being sent to consumers right away, locally, regionally, as well as nationally. So the supply chain mechanism has to be also regulated, or further regulated. Fiscal subsidies, for example, for co-op rehabilitation, and of course for the MSMEs, and regulate new normal. It's one voice, central and local government. And I think this is also very important, because there should be one voice from both the national all the way to the local in terms of cooperative regulatory measures that needs to take place in to face the external pressures, and support strategies for co-ops and credit unions. And the stakeholders, of course, develop common strategies for collective learning in time of crisis, develop strategies to enhance solidarity among civil society organizations. One can add many more to this and to all of this, but this is just a mechanism to see whether the leadership creates vigilance, so that during the crisis period, or during the crisis period, vigilance can make a consolidation possible. And if you go to the earlier slides on the second shock, you can see that leadership test is right there during the institutional hardship. And if you go back to the earlier one, then you can see that empathy needs to happen, compassion, empathy during the members' hardship at the first place. Okay, so with that, with those few presentations, this is just a repeat of what I mentioned earlier. I would like to end by saying what John Kennedy said. When written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters, he said. One represents danger and the other represents opportunity. But what Ryan Reynolds said, any kind of crisis can be good. It wakes you up. So, ladies and gentlemen, friends, fellow cooperatives, let's all wake up. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pak Robi Tulus. I couldn't stop your important presentation. Okay. It is interesting for me to note about the quote, time for change, crisis creates opportunity. Okay, that's the point of what we should do. Ladies information, before we continue to the next session, I just want to inform that we have already had two speakers here from the minister and also from Pak Robi. So the participants should or could use the question and answer box to deliver any question that you want to spend. Okay, thank you for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me go to the second speaker, the impressive and inspiring lady for me, Madam Sylvia Okinla Paragaya. Good morning, Madam. Magandang umaga.
Magandang umaga po.
Yeah.
Am I loud and clear?
Yeah, it's really clear.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. I just want to inform you a little brief to the audience that Madam Paraguya is the CEO of the National Confederation of Cooperative or NATCO Philippines, and she has been working since 1993. She is the Master in Business Management of Asian Institute of Management, Makati City. So, ma'am, we are curious with your program in developing cooperative in your country. Please, welcome.
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to congratulate IKOPIN on the celebration of its 30th anniversary. Thank you, Mr. Burhanuddin Abdullah, for the invitation to be part of this panel. We'd also like to thank Caro Bitulus for the framework that you have earlier presented. First, I'd like to give my outline. I'll have three major parts of my presentation. First is the Philippine MSMEs, what we are before and now that there's COVID, what has NATCO done and the network and its responses. Then we look at co-ops and MSMEs today and after COVID-19. So this is a slide which shows the Philippine MSMEs, cooperatives, and NATCO. But here I also included the large enterprises. So in the Philippines, the classification is you have micro enterprises if your total assets is less than 3 million pesos. It is small if it is 3 million to 15 millions. Medium if it is 15 million to 100 million, and large if greater than 100 millions. And if you look at the number of Philippine MSMEs, you have more micro enterprises. That is 806,609. And the employment generated here is around 2.2 millions. If you look at the Philippine cooperatives, and this only includes the reporting cooperatives, there are 11,138 cooperatives. And most of these are micro. 5,708 are micro, and then you only have 585 large. And you will also see in this matrix that the co-op sector employs 580,000 individuals. But there's a total of 10.7 million individual members in the whole co-op sector. If you look at NATCO, there are 842 cooperatives. Where can you still see my presentation? What's happening?
Okay, wait, Pak Ardi.
Yeah. There are, in the NATCO network, there are more cooperatives that are large.
Maybe
okay.
You can start sharing again, ma'am.
Is it not okay? Okay. What happened?
Yeah.
We can't see the PowerPoint.
Yeah, I'll share again.
Yeah.
Because it was cut. Okay. Here. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the NATCO network, there are 842 cooperatives, and the individual members would be 5.8 millions. So here I am showing to you the Philippine MSE Development Plan of the country from 2017 to 2022. And you will see that there is a very good plan, and the strategic goals are very clear, that they want an improved business climate, improved access to finance, enhanced management and labor capacities, improved access to technology, and improved access to market. And there are a lot of programs, and there are a lot of laws related to how this business climate will be improved. So I think if you are a cooperative, you need to look at these programs and how your individual members will have access to these programs. Here I am showing you that because of COVID-19, based on the data, 53% of the MSMEs shut down. And what are the, in the law, in the current law, there is a specification on the loan portfolio for MSMEs for the banking system. So you will see there that in fact, the banking system should have provided 782 billions of money for the micro and small and medium industries. And right now, their actual loan portfolio is 540 billion, and there is a variance of 242 billions. It is good to see that in fact, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas already instituted measures to improve access of finance by the micro and small and medium industries. So right now, the BSP measure is that the new loans for the micro and small medium industries since quarantine will be included in the computation of banks' compliance with reserve requirements. So for the banks, there is a required reserve requirements, and if you lend to micro and small and medium industries, part of that can be considered as compliance. There is also a proposed credit guarantee for MSMEs. I think this is part of the stimulus package. And right now, the Land Bank of the Philippines has offered a loan product. They call it the iRescue program. There is a 51 billion wage subsidy program for some workers for qualified MSME employers. And there is a stimulus program which is now being discussed in the House of Representatives. So this is where we are. The MSMEs were not able to operate because of the ECQ, but the government has taken measures to support the MSMEs. Now, I'd like to give an example, a very local example of how communities MSMEs responded. You will see there that there is an entrepreneur who opened a platform where members of the community can sell their products, and they call it the Shop Local, Eat Local, Spend Local. And you will also see my name there, Sylvia Okinlay Paraguya, because I helped a cousin put up her product on the platform. She had turmeric as her product, and she usually sells it at 25 pesos. When I posted it on the platform, it was able to command 100 peso per kilo price. So I think even if the MSMEs were closed, some of them responded by selling online. And you will see that they sell anything under the sun. You will see food, you will see milk, you will see mask or cocoa, or even the leather shop. So the MSMEs, especially the young, if I look at the ages of those which really shifted to online selling, probably I'm the only old person there. They are mostly 35 years old below. So you will see they sell flowers, they sell pots, they sell seeds, even fresh food. So while there is an ECQ, those who know how to sell online shifted to online selling. They go very local in terms of their selling, and maybe these products are either their own products or they are resellers of this. Imagine that there is a person selling Toblerone, chocolates, which you can only find in the malls, but it can get straight to your house now because they will deliver it. So I think it is very important to see how the MSMEs shifted to online services to continue their selling of their products. But you will see that these are really young entrepreneurs. And I was looking at the list, I was counting how many of these are members of our cooperatives. And I think what the cooperative should do in our local area is recruit these entrepreneurs to the co-ops. So this is just a brief background on NATCO, that we have 842 co-ops with 5.8 million individuals. And from our services, you will see that we have been doing a lot of digitalization work. As early as 2007, NATCO already connected with the ATM consortium in the country. So our services can be reached, the services of our members can be accessed via the offices, via ATMs, and even via the mobile. Right now, we're about to finish our POS as part of the Kaya payment platform. And our education, training, and consultancy has also shifted. Even before COVID, we already have an e-learning platform. So I think we have started, but we have to push this further given the COVID. When I look at the current situation with COVID, I feel happy that in fact, we can go back to the basics of cooperatives. We can go back to our principles because we will really overcome if we continue practicing these principles. But if you look at the principles and the values, one of the areas where we need to look at, because it's not easy to do digital, is the democratic member control and democracy. Every year, we usually hold our General Assembly, but right now we cannot do that. In the past, we would hold 2,000, 10,000, 15,000 of GA. Now we have not done any General Assembly. So how do we do our democracy now? Can we really go digital? In some areas, the local government units will not allow a meeting of 25 people. So if your members would be 50,000, how will you do your annual General Assembly? I think among the principles and values, this is the one which is not easy to be responded easily by digitalization, and we need regulatory guidance on how this can be done. Just like what Carobias mentioned, the co-ops have really stepped up their work, and it is good to mention that March and April is really the time to distribute dividends and patronage refunds. So I can imagine that the members of the co-ops, even if they are affected by COVID, received some amounts for their dividends and patronage refund. And even if our boards are a bit old, they're able to do virtual meetings. So I capture there, who says seniors cannot adapt to change? Because now, even if they're 60 or 65 years old, they know how to do Zoom.
Yes.
Then for the network, we also tried to come up with template policies for virtual meetings and work from home, because right now the co-ops are on skeleton. Then the same with other countries, you have to protect your employees. So for the members, the co-ops provided more support, not just financial, but even online counseling. And we also see how the co-ops have taken care of the community. This is an initiative which I'd like to share, because this is what NATCO has done. We have worked with other civil society, the Philippine Business for Social Progress, so that we link 3 farmer cooperatives. The Taloy Norte provided the vegetables, the PAS Co-op provided the dried fish, the Golden PMPC provided the rice. And this went into the food packs, which were delivered to the National Capital Region. So you see how we combine the different food packs. This is important because after COVID, maybe we can now link directly to the cooperatives. So right now we're saying that when you look at MSMEs in the cooperatives, you should provide not just financial products, but also advisory services. You have to have business development services and agro-enterprise development. At the level of the members right now, because of COVID, we should enhance our counseling. Because there's a moratorium in the Philippines, we should ask our members to pay now than postpone, and we should go back to financial literacy, that it is really good to have cash reserve. You should also educate our members on nutrition and health, because in the end, when you have pandemics, it's immunity. Your immunity is your first defense. Then we have to do entrepreneurship training and more digital literacy. In ATCO, we're sharing with you that we have digital solutions which will make it possible for the members to do online payments. And later on, it is possible for members to do online loan application, online membership, and online inquiries on their balances. So you don't need to go to the co-op to ask for your balances and even apply for a loan. And when you receive your loan, maybe it will be going through your respective ATMs. We have special programs which help us in our work with micro and small and medium enterprise, the Great Women Project funded by Canada and in partnership with the Philippine Commission on Women. We also have right now, this is important because this is really about digital economy. We have a project with ePeso funded by USAID on connecting women entrepreneurs to the digital economy. And for the Asian Confederation of Credit Union, ACU is really clear that we need to do enterprise development support. So these are just the slides to show you what type of support we need to do for MSMEs. And then I will end with the way forward. What we will do is really work on how cooperatives will be included in the stimulus program of the government. But this will be in partnership with other cooperatives in the country. We'd like to see how NATO can help aggregate the products of the producer co-ops to the consumers co-op. How do we link with government agencies? At the level of the co-ops, we have to assess how to help members move forward. And co-ops should offer business development services, and digitalization is also a key, especially in pandemics. That ends my presentation. Thank you very much. I hope you were able to get something from my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Paraguya. It's nice when you have a statement that being old doesn't matter to go to the digital cooperative, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, before we continue to the last speakers, I just want to inform to Pak Robi Tulus and also from the ministry whether we are here having Pak Luhut and also Pak Ruli. There are some questions for both of you in the question and answer box. So please read it and perhaps we will get all the question answered to the audience. So we can start from now and the participant also can add some question for Mrs. Paraguya. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last speaker, of course not the least, we have the youngest speaker from Pakistan. He is Mr. Ahsan Ali Thakur, and now congratulations that you are the Vice President of the International Cooperative Alliance Asia Pacific Committee on Youth Cooperation. He has been working in cooperatives since 2007 and has got a lot of experiences. And somehow, some of his today focus is on Go Green campaign, of course, for cooperative youth movement. So, Mr. Thakur, the time is yours.
Thank you, Ami, for giving me time to speak about it. Before I begin my presentation, I just like to congratulate the ECOPIN on reaching a 38th of its anniversary. And I just like to thank Mr. Robbie and Ms. Sylvia for having a great presentation. Most of the topics that I've skipped in my webinar, in my presentation, were mostly covered by you. That is a very huge help for me. I'd like to thank Mr. Burhanuddin for the rector of the ECOPIN to provide this opportunity to talk about from the Asia Pacific point of view from the youth section. And I like to inform that the committee has done a fine job in maintaining the identity of cooperatives in the IKOPIN for educating and other purposes. So thank you so much for having me here. I also like to thank the minister from the cooperative sector in Indonesia and from the SMEs or MSMEs section for providing his time and sharing his knowledge about the Indonesian current events. Before I begin my presentation, I just like to clarify one thing, that cooperative is different from NGOs and corporate sector. It's not a social, it's not just a social activist movement, but it is all about the profit and loss section. Now, with that, I just like to add a few things that is missed in my introduction, is that I'm currently the chairperson of the International Cooperative Alliance Asia Pacific Committee on Youth Cooperation, and the vice president of the Global Youth Network, which allows me to connect with the global community on how the youth are performing and regressing, or provide our inputs from the Asia Pacific to sustain a better and more functional way to move with the cooperative youth movement. So what do we do of the ICYC's movement? We are basically propagate and promote the business model for the cooperatives in the youth section in Asia Pacific region through the educational training and entrepreneurs as well as leaders in our community. Just to give you a heads up of what is the population of our region, Asia Pacific is the number one. It has the highest number of youth in current times. Then is followed by the Europe and Africa, and then comes America. So just to give you a heads up on what is the current population and how Asia Pacific needs to work for its own youth cooperative movement. So all this talk about the COVID-19 has led to a few clear things that is happening. One, business can be run at home, and two, the information technology is a key factor for moving forward. Here comes the platform cooperatives, where the business is done through website, mobiles, and through other services that are much more digital to sell goods and further on things. This platform cooperative is kind of a working group that is created by the ICA to produce a better performing platform on the digital economy that we are running for the cooperatives. Now, the philosophy that this platform has come to at a late start is because they wanted to have a clear vision on removing the first the exploitation factor from the capitalistic business model, and then convert it into cooperative platform institutions. So there is going to be a shared ownership, and the principles and ethics of the cooperative are going to be infused in such digital activities. Now, the basic and the best part of this platform, it is constructing a platform for employment opportunities for the youth to be incorporated in it, and that is through the SDG 8, that is with productive and productive working environment and decent working section, we are moving forward through it. So platform cooperative is something that that could be tipping the balance in the cooperative world on how and what digital economies can provide through the cooperative model infused and the youth perspective involved in this whole mix. Now, COVID-19 has brought us a lot of things. As I already mentioned, we know that businesses can be done on the internet. All the researches that we are receiving can be correct or not, but it depends on how much time is spent on it. Paradigm shifts in the economies are there, including micro and macro, both of them. This is the current time where where a low income person can earn or start earning at a faster pace than any other established business person that we know right now, and the cooperatives youth can play a huge role in developing such gap areas in the economies. Now, when we cooperative has another chance to inject the cooperative business identity, that is a model for the corporate community's welfare. And pandemic has brought closer than ever before in for all of our lifetimes. That means as pandemic started, people were a bit more divided, bit more individualistic approach. Now in COVID-19, it has brought people to work together at a better place. Absolutely, maintaining a social distance is one of the things, but it has brought people closer than ever before. That is a very positive thing to look as a cooperative perspective. Now, these are just a few things that is happening. I just like to point out the last and the most important thing that COVID-19 has provided, where in the corporate sector, where people are being laid off from the employment or some other factors. Cooperative is one of the models that has reported less amount of laying off of people through its models. Either they are trying its best to hold the employment through such cooperative deeds and activities, because it is all about community, and communities are coming closer to save its own parameters for developing its own cooperative institutions and organizations. Now, what are the activities that is happening in the AP and the global section? First of all, I like to mention that in Kuching, Malaysia, this year in February, we announced in the GYF platform, the Global Youth Platform, that there is going to be a replication project for each region. I am going to be one of those steering committee people that would steer and motivate people to start new proposals for the cooperative in Asia Pacific and other regions and advise accordingly. So that is going to be one of the tasks in mentoring and applying for funds for starting a cooperative in each of our respected region of the ICF. Excuse me. Now, I like to report the findings from our members from the ICYC, is that in India, the youth employment from one of our organization, that is IFCO, has donated a certain amount of salary for the welfare of the COVID-19, and this population from the employees is about 15% youth. So their salary is basically used for the benefit of their own community for COVID-19 purposes. In Pakistan, our organization, especially my organization, is an apex of 24 societies, of housing societies. Each society has its own way of contributing. Let me just give you an example of one of the societies. If you could see the image mentioned here, this is one of the rations box that is provided by our members societies to the community or the poor part of our communities, so that it was delivered before Ramzan, and all the youth, either they were contributing physically or by financial aid, they did a tremendous job in circulating the rations to the specific household. So we are doing anything and everything possible for our communities in whatever possibilities that exist in our vicinities and capabilities. Now, when we're talking about Philippines, one of our members reported, one Cisco insurance company, is that they are providing free insurance without any further clauses to be included in certain amount of policies, so that the youth from the 18 and above can facilitate themselves if they are affected by COVID-19's pandemic issues. In Indonesia, I'm glad to report that one of our GYF and GC participants took immediate action when things started rolling down and where masks were unable to be provided. I just like to show you a video on what happened. So you might not hear the audio perspective.
Yeah, the audio
But
is yes, but there is no visual for your video.
I'm sorry.
There is no visual of your video, just the voice.
Okay, so I hope everyone can see the video. This is the Indonesian youth that are distributing homemade masks to everyone where the shortage of masks were there. And it was done through the GYF and GC participants that's initiated such activities in their local communities, and approximately 30 people participated in the whole section. So Indonesian youth are also coming up to circulate information and medical supplies wherever required in whatever capabilities they are able to do it. Now, about what ICYC is currently doing and what are the plans for the ICYC is, I just like to show you that it is working on a Go Green campaign, which has been done since 2018 up till now. And it's all about connecting the SDGs, the youth, and the cooperative all together. The goal of the campaign is to gather the youth from different countries to plant trees through self-help and solidarity. While working together, youth are exposed to cooperative working lives and aid in creating an identity for the co-op sustainable environment and concern for the community. This means that we are not just working and planting trees, we are trying to create a cooperative identity, that it is not just a business model, it is a sustainable business model in which it cares for its environment and it cares for the environment of its community members. What do you do in this campaign? You just plant trees. That is the simplest thing to fight climate change. And this year, due to COVID-19, we are considering to divide the activity into a much more physical as well as virtual form. In physical form, you just need to plant trees. Use our banner, which is going to be provided with our toolkit recently, if you could see in our in the video.
Yes.
And you just need to take picture with it while planting trees and send it to us. If you make videos, that would be great. That is the physical activity. Second part is going to be our virtual activity. The virtual activity is all about webinars, creating awareness on climate change, how a cooperative can be engaged in it, how the cooperative are doing what they are doing best for the COVID-19, as well as working on the for working and fighting for the climate change. So these are the things that we right now need is, first of all, we need volunteers. I've already circulated through our social media for volunteers and volunteer activities. These volunteers are going to be a part of its first of its kind program for the ICYC, that we are going to induct people, young people that have no experience on cooperative or do not know what a cooperative is, and they could join us if they are able to find their exact position of what they are what they want to do in the Go Green campaign. So that's one. Second is, we need speakers for our webinars, for a webinar section. That is going to be an international webinar in which we are looking for youth speakers that have the experience for working in the cooperative as well as climate change. Description has been given in the images, as well as it's on our social media as well. Third thing is cooperative supporting the youth to participate in the Go Green. We are looking for collaborations with our cooperative entities to plant trees and maintain social distance while doing that. So we had made a video on what can be a possibilities of taking part or making. Let me just share it with you, the video for our
Okay.
idea on how to be a part of cooperative while staying at home. So if you could see this video just explains, I borrowed this pot from our neighbors, and it has a lot of saplings in it. I used an old water bottle, cut it in half, used both of the halves as a base for planting soil. I placed the saplings in it, and voila, I'm basically working on expansion of plantations as well as using reusable items at our homes. So this is just an idea. You can come up with your own idea on how to be a part of such activities. And that is going to be a part of the Go Green campaign. What we are requesting is, when you are doing such activities, make sure to take pictures or videos and send it to us, so that we could incorporate um, in our feedback to finalize a report for our region, and also to let everyone know what Asia Pacific youth are capable of in um, propagating and promoting not just their communities and cooperatives, but to work together for their own sustainable environment for the future. Okay, so the date for the Go Green Campaign 3.0 is on the 1st to 21st of July. That is happening for the commemoration for the International Cooperative Day for the 4th of July. And the first week of the July is going to be the Asia Pacific Week, then African Week, and then the American Week. These weeks means that the Youth Network of Africa and America are also collaborating with us to propagate the Go Green campaign and circulate the message and motions across not just our region, but across the regional border, and making an international event. Other than our youth networks, I'm pleased to announce that CHI, the Cooperative Housing International, is also a collaborative part with our Go Green campaign, and they are supporting with all the capabilities they have to participate in it. So how it works? Simply, you plan and discuss with your cooperatives and communities. You plant trees and find out which is convenient for you at home or at office. Make sure that social distancing practicing has been maintained. Come up with your own ideas. Our members from the ICYC are already starting to work on it. And so one of the ideas from Philippines came out that why not we use our old used tires of our cars to make pots, and that could be a part to planting trees, as well as make sure that they are reusing or recycling the items that might be hampering the environment. And last and but not least, send the information to us so that it could be incorporated in our overall section. Last but not least is ICYC is always open for members support. So we are looking for a lot of members to come up with their ideas and activities and join our movement as members to propagate the youth cooperative movement, not in just your communities, but in your cities, in your countries, and in your specifically to your region. So come join us if you wish to have much more collaborative work on the youth cooperative movement. These are our members, the current office bearers, myself, Mr. Ali Raza, Vice Chairperson, and right now Mr. Jayashree. He is the acting secretary for the ICYC. Just to give you where you could find us, it's our website, Facebook, YouTube. These are the places that you could find us directly, and I will share the information with you. Just to close the last statement for the presentation, Go Green campaign is and was never just a social activity. It's about an initiation in which people recognize that what kind of plants are available in their community, what they can grow. The second step, which came too quickly for me as well, I must admit that due to COVID-19, the second step was to talk about how people can use or implement home gardening or permaculture at home for creating their own foods, vegetables, and other sorts requirement for a short income. This could be somewhat an initiation phase for the future, but I think that has, due to COVID-19, it has all speed up the whole process and make it much more clearer that if you start working on agriculture at home, that would be the best thing to do. And you can make smaller communities in and have a cooperative umbrella around it to protect your rights and circulate the information. It's going to be like, if one house is planting potatoes, the other house could be planting tomatoes, the third one is going to be planting chilies, cabbages, whatever necessity for the community. To avoid, one of the statistics provided by the minister is that 350% has been an increase in staple food items, which shows and indicates that people are a bit scared to buy open items. These models on having a home kitchen at your home would create a trust building activity for your community to buy it from you than to look for an outside opportunity. So this could bring in a lot of people and income from small micro incomes to more medium-sized incomes to have an opportunity to work at home and propagate and promote the cooperative institutions. Thank you so much for your time and listening to the presentation. If you have any questions and capability comments, please use the provided email address to contact me anytime.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Ahsan. It's really inspiring, especially as you know that our students or IKOPIN students also following this program. So I think they are becoming so sure about their part in developing cooperative, especially in Indonesia. And of course, I will also inform your program as already done by Hera, and I will be involved in spending your sharing your campaign.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, just to give us some time for take a breath and you read some question on your question and answer box. There are some questions for the ministry and then Pak Toby, also Madam Sylvia. And I provide 30 minutes to all of you, including Ahsan, to read through and find out or emphasize the most important question that could generally answer all questions. Maybe Pak Pak Luhur or Pak Ruli will be answer for some question.
Okay.
Okay.
If Pak Ruli not attend, maybe I will try to answer some questions. Okay, we can.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and especially from Mr. Dr. Kasman, asked to the Ministry of the Cooperative regarding how to support the small and medium enterprise for the fund. Actually, in this moment, I would like to inform you that the Ministry of Cooperative have the revolving fund management agency. Yeah, this management revolving fund management agency have the product give some sub fund to the cooperative, which the cooperative have the members. So the revolving fund edition easy of access and guarantee coverage, low interest rates for cooperative through revolving fund management institution. So that's why in this situation with the effective pandemic COVID, the revolving fund management agency also still what we call that, give restructuring credit structuring for cooperative, yeah, through the revolving fund management agency, or we call LPTP. Yeah, currently the revolving fund management agency is also preparing a financing scheme for working capital for cooperative effective by COVID-19, such as how the mechanism for submission, document requirements, yeah, amount of interest on loans to the members, and grace period also, and collateral and long term. So this what you call the policy from the Ministry of Cooperative, yeah, through the Developing Fund Management Agency. Yeah. And the second question maybe from the Pak Yusuf Sani. Pak Yusuf Sani asked about the policy for the Ministry of Cooperative regarding the physical distancing policy by the government. Yeah, we try to answer this question. Actually, some small medium enterprise also have a socialization how to make to sell their product through the online system. Yeah, so that's why through the what we call the marketing agency. Yeah, we have the marketing agency give a training, yeah, about the kakak asuh, or we call kakak asuh, or maybe such a trainer for of trainer. Yeah, this kakak asuh give the LLP give what we call that give a trainer for kakak asuh, yeah, such a TUT system, and then after give a trainer, each kakak asuh should have what we call that under or maybe small and medium enterprise, which is they don't up to now they don't sell the product through online system. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah, and then also each kakak asuh, each TOT should have 3 small medium enterprises online system. Sorry, offline. So we need to educate that each small medium enterprise should be how to sell their product through online system. Yeah, okay. And beside that, we have a deputy, actually deputy human resource development, also give a training how to make sell their product through online system. Yeah, through online system. So beside that, we also socialization about if the product of the small medium enterprise now maybe cannot sell, yeah, cannot sell regarding the physical distancing, they can make new activities. Yeah, new activities. For example, if the location in the district, maybe in the district have a potential with a herbal product, yeah, they can do how to make such a drink, yeah, from the material raw from herbal. Yeah, they can teach the activities. Yeah, so the SMEs, which situation like now, they can still do what is the activities, and then they can pay the employee. Yeah, this is the question from the Yusuf Sani. What is the policy from the ministry? The ministry give a trainer, yeah, give a trainer to the small medium enterprise. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is my question, my answer to Pak Karsman and Pak Yusuf Sani.
Is that?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it enough? Enough for all?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Pak Luhur, thank you for answering. And of course, that the participant won't be satisfied for that, but it will become our next program. Still
Maybe
have more? Okay.
I will once more.
Okay.
Add, yeah. Beside that, we have a program shopping at the neighbor shop. Yeah,
Okay.
utilizing data stars, such a consumer cooperative or market cooperative and micro business, small business, connected to e-commerce, establish partnerships with 9 food cluster from the state-owned company. Take advantage of exposure from young influencer to encourage people to shop at store.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Pak Pak Luhur. Long time not see, Pak Luhur. Okay. For the next, Pak Robi Tulus, there are so many questions for you, and it's very, very quite interesting topic, I think, for what you have already delivered. Please.
Yeah, I try to do. I tried. What do you call it? I try to choose what is the questions related with the Ministry of Cooperative.
Right. Right. Thank you.
So read some question maybe from the especially to the Ministry of Communication.
Yeah, there is a question for the Communication Ministry, but we couldn't answer for that. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Pak Luhur, once again. Pak Robi Tulis, please welcome.
Yes. Ibu Ami, I have already answered some of them in writing. I
see
that earlier, but there are some which are interesting questions also that we should answer live, I think.
Okay.
I think Prudencia, is it Bapa or Ibu?
Prudencia, I'm not quite sure.
So he or she asked a number of questions, but it's basically a question about integrated work between a medical team, WASH, I think it's an environmental agency, and co-op movement in the new normal. So I think to answer your question, it is still a hypothetical question because, you know, the new normal will be coming soon after the COVID-19 has been lifted. But in order to make sure that the experiences of both the medical practitioners, the environmental practitioners, as well as the co-op movement practitioners should perhaps try and sit together. And that is what I meant about the interactive collaboration in the civil society or stakeholder mechanism that would allow them to learn from each other and be able to apply the learnings to their respective members of cooperatives, as well as clients of, say, the medical professionals. So again, this is more of a hypothetical thing that will happen in the future, but from now on, you will have to already start the networks going. So that's my answer to the first. And I think also Prudencia said whether or not there's a subsidy on recovering loan risk from the government. I think in many cases, the emergency funds that financial cooperatives would put aside will perhaps be able to recover the risk of loans. And I can see that, for example, in some of the credit unions that I have contact with, like Lingkumang, and I think I read about the Obermas as well, you know, they have been very well, they have been very good in maintaining the liquidity so that is liquidity management as well as cash flow management that needs to happen, and so that members would not rush out and pick up their savings all at once. So I think there is also a good mechanism that the government can do, and that is to try and maximize the amount of savings members could withdraw in the event that withdrawal of savings becomes very prominent at some point. So in some countries, they have already done so. I don't know about Philippines, Sylvia, but I think, you know, there should be some regulatory measure that would allow, you know, members that would limit the withdrawal of savings from members. But as far as cash flow mechanism and cash flow management is going along well, I don't think, you know, there's been a lot of recovery of loan risk. It's just a matter of reconditioning and restructuring the loans. And some financial cooperatives are also just asking members to repay the interest of loans and not necessarily the nominal amount. Yeah.
Yeah. Karobi, I'd like to follow up on that.
Yes,
In the
please.
Philippines, there is really a moratorium on both the principal and interest payments. So even if the cooperatives are not under the central bank, all of those with lending facilities are required that they will give moratorium. For some of the co-ops, what they did was to extend the term of the loan with no additional interest. But that would mean that they will really lose 1 month of interest if they will extend the term and not add additional charges. So I think what is important here is for the co-ops to look at their financial capacities, to assess what they can afford. My last calculation of the data from NATCO, actually, even if there is a moratorium for about 4 months, they will still survive. The challenge there is what you do with the delinquency, because those which will be affected by COVID will really hit you in terms of your provisioning. So we are asking our regulatory body to allow staggered provisioning of the loan loss. That means if you assess your loan portfolio and you see that this amount is affected by COVID, then we will ask that the provisions will be relaxed so that you're allowed to amortize it over time and not require you to put all the provisions right away. So I think it's important that co-ops understand their cash flow, understand their needs. Right now, we don't have a regulatory advice that we will limit the withdrawals. So some co-ops with very good financial position, they are doing very well. In fact, some of the co-ops are expecting that they will have more members after COVID because they have been very alive. They have provided help to their members, and they provided help to the community. So they are very visible in this time of crisis. So they even see that they are getting more members even at this time. So the impact can be different across co-ops, but those which were in the right standards at the start, they are doing well. And especially if you were allowed to operate the whole time. Because at the start of the quarantine, cooperatives in the country were generally not allowed to open. So we had to close. There was a time when 50% of our members were closed, especially in the Luzon. But right now we're opening back. In our statistics, only 40% now are closed, and the Luzon co-ops are back.
I think your regulatory policy there is your regulatory measure is provincial based, not national based. So each province will have to have their own regulation whether to close or not. Is it right?
Yeah, there are some local government units which made their own announcement that the cooperatives can operate. So what the Philippine co-op sector did was to always lobby that we will be allowed to operate. So after the declaration of the extension, we are now allowed to operate. So that's why all the co-ops are coming back. The sector headed by the Philippine Co-op Center was successful in the advocacy that cooperatives are essential operations in the time of COVID.
It's still observing social distancing.
Yes. Just like what you showed with the protection for the staff, then lower hours, maybe just 4 hours or even every other day operations. But the co-ops are coming back.
Right. We have in Canada here, I'm a member of the credit union, and they reduced the office hours. So the usual 8 hours will become only 4 hours now, and it's all mostly done digitally with online banking.
The same here, but I think what was nice about co-ops, and I'd like to relate that to one of the questions that the problem is trust, and what is the trust level after COVID? Some cooperatives were closed because the government said that you cannot operate. But even if they were closed, they really work to give support to their members and the community. So even if the physical structure is not there or just the digital facilities are there, the co-ops went into real connection with the members, providing them with 5 kilos of rice and even donating some materials for the government, for the PPEs. So I think because of the visibility of the co-ops in the COVID times, there is trust that these community-based organizations are there, COVID or no COVID.
Yeah, I think that's also very reverberating of all places where cooperatives are successful, because I think they all there is a governed behavior that is so successful because they share all the basic principles, right? And so users have to say how the resource is managed, monitoring of the resource is done by those who owns and use it, and sanctions are applied against miscreants. So all that, I think, is now being reinvented during this COVID-19. And I think this is very important because if you have trust within and among members, I think you have a much more sort of stable operation because members would not also feel that that they're being abandoned. Yeah.
Okay.
And there is also a question from Mr. Sanjaya.
Tupawana.
Tupanwana, yes.
Yeah.
He referred to my health and wealth mechanism and how cooperatives are, are really playing the middle role in terms of community well-being and community welfare. So, and how do we, he said, use the 6 principles so that we are not trying to sort of submit to more capitalistic approaches towards the health and wealth debacle. So, well, I said, again, it's a 7th principle that needs to work there, because cooperatives, while giving services to members, by extension, they're also giving service to the community. And if you don't create that level of, of empathy to the community, you will not be able to also, survive in a way that that local welfare or philanthropic groups will. So again, I think cooperatives, as Sylvia said, has that level of community trust and also being able to do the modeling of their risk modeling very well, that allows members to be able to to feel comfortable with what moratorium has been offered and what and also extension of loans, moratorium for that matter, and also the payment of interest only is being offered. There's another one from Prayogo, and his question is whether we can send a micro factory for digital twinning or digital twinning, which he was capturing the opportunity what cooperatives can do. Well, this is a hard question to answer, really, because setting up a micro factory on digital micro factory, again, the young people with the platform cooperatives may initiate that, hopefully, and be able to, to build upon it in the Industry 4 now. Yeah.
Yeah. Robbie, at the level of the federation, our challenge now is we have services which we usually do just physically, like when you install a system for banking software, we install the Kaya. You do that by visiting the co-op. So right now we said, let us pilot an online implementation, because you cannot now travel across the country. So can we go digital in terms of implementing Kaya? Can we go digital in terms of implementing a transactional software? And I think that would be where we should go, because pandemics can occur anytime. So we have to be prepared to shift to digital implementation of our services. Yes. And that is the same challenge with our cooperatives. We have to fly to be digital.
What you're mentioning there is exactly what the also KUKO in Kopit is doing right now, because they're supposed to set up the infrastructure of their online banking in South Sulawesi. But then the pandemic came, and then the internet system in South Sulawesi is not as strong. So they go into dedicated internet mechanism to make sure that it's that it's strengthened. And now they do the infrastructure digitally, not by being physically there, but that they only need to buy their what is it, necessary infrastructure like printers, what do you call it, monitors and all that. But what is it? The online system can be done through online also.
Yes.
Yes.
Like Kaya, right? But Kaya is much more ahead, of course, and we still have a jumble of different different service platforms there.
Yeah. I think we'd like to go back to the experience that we have, where we are more financial in our work, but because of the COVID, we were forced to aggregate the products of the individual members. So I feel very happy of that initiative where you cross 4 co-ops or 3 co-ops, and the farmers in one has the veggies, the dried fish and the rice, and you put that into one pack and you bring that to the national capital region where you have the communities. But post-COVID, can you do that where the demand side will be the individual members of the other co-ops in the national capital region? So there is, I think, an opportunity that will link the producer individual members and the consumer individual members across cooperatives. And the role of the federation is just to orchestrate the movement of that from the producers to the consumers.
And as you and I discussed at some point, and sorry for the others to listen to this, but it has to do with this COVID thing. It's also the spin-off mechanism. Remember that the credit unions now, through a multi-stakeholder mechanism, set up agriculture co-ops, or it isn't the credit union that set it up, but the community. Just spinning off from the financial cooperatives into other types of cooperatives. I think there was a question there also raised online just now, which I've already answered in writing.
Okay.
Yeah, right. But it's happened. It has to do with spin-offs. Yeah.
Okay. So Ms. Paraguay still have to answer some question.
I'll just knew from the questions with Robbie anyway that can be shared. But maybe aside from the spin-off, Robbie, the consolidation, you mentioned that in your presentation. I do not know if there will be consolidation. I think that would be nice. Do you think it will easily happen?
It's challenge. It's a challenge. It's a real challenge. But you have to, because if you have weaker credit unions that cannot survive, you have to try and consolidate it by either a strategic alliance or by merging. And like with NATCO, you have in the past more than 1,000, and now it's only 800, right? But it was not because of COVID, but it was because of a natural organic amalgamation. But I think COVID would provide that opportunity, that for some who cannot survive in not having the economies of scale and economies of scope, they will have to amalgamate. Yeah.
Okay. Challenge. Asad, I think you have also some question for you. Is there anything you want to answer?
There are numerous amounts of questions. I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer all of them, but if I'm unable to answer, please refer to me through my Facebook or email. But one of the few questions that I like to address is asked by Mr. I'm not sure if it's a Mr. or Miss Darman. Okay. So his question was, is cooperatives and SMSEs experiencing financial difficulty caused by the COVID-19? What policies should the government undertake to recover the liquidity problem at the cooperative and SMSEs at this particular time? So answer I was just about to type in is one. In my opinion, there are two possible ways that a government should act in it. Um, but it is a in a long term perspective. One, if the government could decrease the amount of members for a cooperative to start, that is, if the number is 10 or 5, it should be further decreased down for the cooperatives to start gather members. That is going to create that is going to be an pivotal point for the cooperative to start cooperative in a smaller group as compared to a larger group, which is harder to manufacture and create and to gather and formulate in a legal matter. Once that is created, there is more chance to come build in more income and proceed with the further. That is going to be one way. Second way is, if you need to have an emergency contingent plan, I would suggest those MSME sectors that are directly affected. I would suggest if they could divide the bill or the utility, not make it completely clear for everyone, but divide the bill and further it down into further months to add it for the whole year to be paid in a smaller amount to be added in each month. That would be helpful for the MSMEs to be paying back at a later stage. Second, the same answer to this second part would be, if the taxes could be further divided for the air into much more smaller scales, that would that would also encourage the cooperatives to have much more lucrative working environment and much more motivational sort of a way to further excel in terms of dividing the taxes into further much more next year's parameters. So these are the two things that I was just typing in. And um, what else? There is a lot of questions. I need to search. Excuse me for looking in the answer section. Okay, so one of the questions was, do you have any programs or agendas to link campus cooperative where many of the cooperative are actively participating? Yes, this Go Green campaign is one of the activities to bring youth, the cooperative, and the SDGs all together, from especially from the cooperatives. As I mentioned in my presentation, COVID-19 has accelerated the process of what I planned for 5 years, that in the first 5 years, the momentum should be building the Go Green campaign from first one region, the second, the third, the fourth, and then move to the other platforms of the ICA. But due to the COVID-19, it has accelerated to the next phase, that is incorporating new ideas on smaller scale for planting things at home, at office, at universities, at school. Where the land is available, it hasn't been used, to use it for agriculture purposes, learn about it through the cooperative methods. Students are going to be involved. They're going to earn through these things. They will provide the community, whichever they are, either it's a school, either it's a school premises, either it's a university premises, it's their offices. So it's going to be a healthy activity, as well as it's going to be an lower income kind of thing that would put money in the youth's pocket, which will encourage them to be a part of the cooperative, the campaign, and overall SDGs. So your answer is yes, we are linking campuses. If if they could approach us and let us know that what kind of capacity they are working in. And okay, can we get a material for the webinar? I would request Ms. Ami to provide the material for the presentations to the participants if there is any requirement. So I only was able to come up with these questions. And okay, one question was asked by Mr. Vilu Raj. what will be the support package or financial package available under the Go Green campaign to do so. This campaign is all about self-help. We are working on two values. The core values are self-help and solidarity. What we want you to do, we are not asking for contributions from any cooperatives. We are not demanding anything. We want you to invest in your own community for your own future, so that you would be having a sustainable environment in 10-20 years. But the home gardening aspects can be something profitable within 6 to 8 months, where permaculture, which I found out in the from the American continent, and a lot of youth cooperative have started doing it. They are planting vegetables at their home backyard, using those vegetables and selling in the market, and through them they are slowly but gradually working together and coming at a association of agriculture for youth sort of thing. So association is supposed to be the first entity of having a higher step in the cooperative legal entity. So I would suggest start with your association, work through it, then formulate a cooperative entity, and then try to expand your market through that. So that is how supportive packages can be created. However, I mentioned in my presentation is that ICYC or ICA Global Youth Network has already announced that there is going to be a sponsored um, um, proposals accepted by from each of the regions, that is Asia Pacific included. So in a few months we are going to start working on who gets the sponsorship for starting a cooperative in which region, and we are going to get applications from all over the Asia Pacific region. So whoever is interested, please get in touch with us, and we will definitely get to know what kind of projects that you propose and what is the outcome from those proposals, and definitely we're going to work around it. So keep in touch. That's the one advice I would like to give you all.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Bu Ami,
you. Yeah.
Bu Ami, I would like.
Yeah. Silakan, Pak Luhur, please.
Yeah, the question from I don't know this Mr. or Mrs. Prudencia about the LPGB revolving fund agency. The criteria about how to access the LPGB. The first is well worked the business analysis. Yeah, good note from the credit bureau, and then complete legality. Especially for the cooperative, it's true. The cooperatives should done with annual member meeting, yeah, at least 2 years, yeah, and then the cooperative also have a good performance, yeah, in this institution. And then for the guarantee, we can fix assets, yeah, or maybe personnel guarantee, and also can current receivables. This is the mechanism and criteria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Luhur, for explaining about the criteria for LPGB.
And especially for this impact of the COVID, through with the note letter from the district government about the impact COVID-19.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 I
Thank
hope
you.
Pak Prudencia could get the answer from whether from Pak Toby or and from Pak Luhur. Okay, so I think everyone agrees that this is the interesting discussion session, and I'm sure that everyone also eager and curious about cooperatives after COVID-19. However, we have the limited time. We have to end the session. But before that, may I invite Pak Burhanuddin Abdullah to state of his idea after wrapping up the session. And for your information, Pak Burhanuddin Abdullah, beside our lovely lector of IKOPIN, he is the former governor of Central Bank of Indonesia and the Indonesia Coordinating Minister of Economic. Please welcome, Pak Rector.
Thank you, Ami, for a very good word about me. I'll try to gather all the speakers' presentation, including the ministers, and read some of the responses from the audiences. There are so many productive ideas and good information to cover with. But again, in the interest of time, I have to arrive at the process of deletion. I delete some, and I will summarize some of the point, very, very important point, and I will read it to you. The first one is that the outbreak of COVID-19 has disrupted the economy globally as well as the social and cultural aspect. Inter alia, the world economy shrunk by around 1/8 of the global GDP, including that of cooperatives and SMEs. Skyrocketing unemployment and widening income gap to a worrying level is occurring everywhere. And the profound and pervasive impact of global mental health, as mentioned by Pak Robi tadi. And the second point is, of course, cooperatives in all continents, in the Philippines, everywhere have been participating in tackling the effect of COVID-19 on many activities, such as food supplies, medical supplies, education services, even some money are contributed to the government. And the cooperatives. Seeing the response, this is the third one, from the public all over the world, this pandemic crisis also creates opportunities to test the cooperative empathy, leadership, and vigilance. And then cooperative members become technology savvy, opening the chances for co-op to gain from digital platform businesses and strengthening network for civil society and economic democracy. Hence, this is opening up a base for wider humanizing economy. The humanizing economy should harmonize, synchronize, and cooperate with corporate capitalism and the free market system, and eventually set up a new landscape of economic sharing, and must put cooperatives back on the world map as a humanizing trust agent, driver of socio-economic prosperity and equality. The fifth, government policy responses of all around the globe to COVID-19 are quite similar. It is incumbent upon us, the public, to ensure that this stimulus package help define a new post-COVID economic trajectory that is more sustainable and humanizing. This momentum to change should not be neglected so that a more humanizing and equitable economic landscape can be established, whereas each person will have their own contribution to the economy, more sustainable, more resilient in dealing with economic turbulence and the crises which nowadays are increasingly frequent. The sixth, the role of cooperative youth members will be very important, not only in harmonizing and balancing the economic democracy for a better life, for a better world to all, but also, as the minister mentioned, in initiating and facilitating the use of digital platform co-op businesses, which is accelerated by the incident of COVID-19, as mentioned by the minister. So those are the points as probably a takeaway that I can capture from all speakers, including the discussion, to today's international webinar in commemoration of the 38th IKOPIN anniversary. For those who are interested, we will draft a complete wrap up of this summary of this wrap up to put it in the IKOPIN's web. In closing, let me say something on behalf of IKOPIN. I would like to once again express our sincere gratitude and thanks to all participants, honorable speakers, Pak Robi Tulus, who is always enthusiastic, full of energy and ideas, Ms. Sylvia Paraguya, whose presentation is very interesting and inspiring, and also Aksan, you are a young guy, chairman of APICA Youth, your presentation could inspire many youth of Indonesia. And my gratitude goes also to the Ministry of Cooperative and SMEs and the Central Bank of Indonesia, Rep Office West Java, for their support. And we will see you again sometime in other occasion. Thank you very much. Back to MC, back to Dela.
Okay, thank you, Pak Rektor. Dear participants, for your information that the committee share all these webinar materials, so you could visit our website. You can go to www.ikopin.ac.id. There you can find all the materials. Ladies and gentlemen, the excellencies, I believe and wish you do also, that cooperative still and will continue to support the principle of economic and political fairness within the industrial capitalism. So ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the end of the international webinar program. On behalf of the host and the committee, we would like to express our deepest gratitude for all speakers. Just to say that we are sorry, we have to apologize. We used to have the token of appreciation, but this time we will be waiting for you coming to our green campus. Asan, IKOPIN is green campus here in Jatinangor, so please welcome and make us good cooperation with your program. And also the deepest appreciation for all participants to support our webinar program. Thank you. Stay home, stay healthy, stay safe. Ramadan ya Karim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you for all of you.
Thank you very much.
Aku cinta koperasi. Dan ku jalani untuk mengembangkan koperasi. Sungai dan laut pun kan ku seberangi untuk mengembangkan koperasi. Kau cinta koperasi. Kau cinta koperasi. Kau cinta koperasi. Kau cinta koperasi. Gunung dan lembah pun kan ku jalani untuk mengembangkan koperasi. Sungai dan laut pun kan ku seberangi untuk mengembangkan koperasi. Kau cinta koperasi. Kau cinta koperasi. Kau cinta koperasi. Kita cinta koperasi. Gunung dan lembah pun kan ku jalani untuk mengembangkan koperasi. Sungai dan laut pun kan ku seberangi untuk mengembangkan koperasi. Kau cinta koperasi. Kau cinta koperasi. Kau cinta koperasi. Aku di kau kita cinta koperasi. Gunung dan lembah pun kan ku jalani untuk mengembangkan koperasi. Sungai dan laut pun kan ku seberangi untuk mengembangkan koperasi.
Okay. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Bye
Thank
from
you all the
Canada.
committee. Hi, Canada.
Hello,
How are
Miss.
you?
Celebrate.
Hello, Miss La.
Thank you
Yeah.
for joining with us.
It was excellent.
Okay, thank you.
I hope we can meet in Sulawesi next time. I
That
think
would be
everyone,
awesome.
yeah, everyone missing you.
Yeah, I
know?
miss all of you.
Mm.
Very, very good tonight. Very
May I
good.
join?
Well, today for
Yeah.
you. But
last time when we held the training,